Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. It's a startling morning. Startling to see the basement packed full of feasting folk. What joy, what excitement. But startling also in those first stories, one of which we've heard. Had it been you, had it been me, among them of that resurrection morning, what would it have been that stopped our souls? The earthquake, seismic tremors of the earth in Matthew, of the soul in Mark, the rolled away stone, the discarded linen wrappings, the dazzling apparel of heavenly beings, all in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All familiar, millennia hence. And what would it have been that was our soul's response? Entirely bewildered and lost, as in Luke. Beyond astonished, as in Mark. Prostrated in fright, as in Luke. Or that rising, keening wail, as in John. Maybe a conspiracy of silence from leaders, as in Matthew. Or maybe for comedic effect, a foot race between Peter and the other disciple, as in John, with the irrelevant detail of who won the race. It was the other one. What about fear of religious leaders, as in John? Or indifference as toward an idle tale, as in Luke. Mute fear, as in Mark. And buried among all the responses is that small note of joy. Amongst so many witnesses, we could be forgiven for not knowing our soul. Amongst such a range of responses, we could be forgiven for not knowing how to answer the day. And so it is with all witnesses of the resurrection. I'll not gainsay their testimony. I prefer to be the humble agnostic. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I know that my love is deepened by faith in the resurrection. And these stories, as if on retainer, decades, maybe even centuries later, they all carry their own purpose and remind us of the purpose that carries us. What I do know is that all creation lives with the refrain of death and life, resurrection upon resurrection, season upon season, generation upon generation. It is ours to live and to die and once again to live. It's available to any child given a seed, a pot, some dirt, and water. And I believe the final question of the day for all of us is how we nurture the mystery of resurrection that's been gifted to us. So this morning I offer you the testimony of one more witness. Her name. Well, we argued about whether I could use her name in sharing this reflection. Permission was granted, but not for the name. I said that by the time I'd finished the story, folks would know her identity anyway. But being resolute in her refusal, I honor her desire not to be named. And upon reflection, I learned something deeper about names and my assumptions. The Gospels are inconsistent on the names of the resurrection witnesses, naming some but not others. My usual assumption has been to see this inconsistency as evidence of chauvinism, a slight on the unnamed. But I think there's something deeper here. Something about being caught up in that which is so much larger than can be contained in a name. Something that pushes past our individuality into that place where we belong to something that calls us into existence. Larger than our singular selves, part of the mystery of the cosmos, part of that great love that binds us together in common humanity. So I will honor her request to remain nameless in this witness to the resurrection of Christ. And in honoring her request, also open the door for all of us to find our places in the resurrection story. So what's the story? Well, it starts with our assumptions. We all make assumptions about long-term care and the elders who live there. Our assumptions usually condescend to our elders. We have limited expectations for their lives, but we have plenty of pity. In that condescension, we are the poorer for it. Having recently moved to long-term care, it would be easy to account for the despondency of the woman. Indeed, we might expect gloom and misery. However, personality being such a paradoxical thing, we realized that transition did not destroy her agency. The reason I'm telling you all this is because the resurrection moment occurred amidst transitional despondency. Sometimes we don't know our actions until after, and understanding only comes on reflection after. And that's what it was in this case. It was another woman, maybe of some kind of Slavic ethnicity, who seemed to be cascading frustration. Arm up, hand in the air, a steady stream of words. The frustrations of a friendless soul. To be avoided at all costs, passed by on the other side, a volatile spectacle of pathetic solitude. As if loneliness was a fevered infection. She rolled past the door and on another 50 feet down the hall, as would we all. And then stopped. 50 feet past the door, turned, as if by unseen hand, returned, entered the room, not her own, and quite out of character, she wheeled within reach and reached out to the other. The first touch startled. The second was received. The woman bowed her head in silence. Her vexatious surge ebbed. The other's hand came down. Calm appeared. silence settled in. Amen was said. Do you want to explain what happened? The woman can't. It was out of character, out of ken, out of wit, out of cognizance. But it was given her. And with it she must now wrestle for the blessing, the meaning of the blessing that was given. And must wrestle the resurrection into the life of each day. My mind went and has gone to the resurrection reactions of Jesus' friends. The plaintive lament of Mary. Where have you laid him? Someone who knows the loneliness of that lament may be alert enough to the loneliness of another that calls us back to their door. The invitation to Thomas, touch, here, see my hands. Someone who knows the power of touch, especially by its absence, may reach out to another who is bereft. The terror, the astonishment, the empty tomb and the fright of strewn linen wrappings. Someone who knows this astonishment asks the cosmos to explain. Because this is the love that is beyond all telling. Sometimes you move to the need and love is the answer, but you only know it after. And the universe gives a satisfied sigh that at least there's a little more love in one corner of long-term care. I still won't tell you her name. Don't bother to ask. You probably know. But I won't tell you her name because resurrection goes by many names, even yours. But I will tell you, Christ is risen. And you might respond, Christ is risen indeed. Amen.